Travis, man, what?
You know, I cannot believe it. We finally got it.
We did?
Yes, it's finally here. The Monarch's origin story is complete. We finally have it. The butterflies, they are perfect and beautiful. See them. Look at them. Aha!
I think this is a stretch.
No! It's not just a lame excuse for me to use my Monarch accent. What are you talking about? Welcome, guys, to Netflix and Kill Butterfly Edition. Oh my god, I am so excited to talk about these scary butterflies to you today. And who's talking about the scary winged creatures? Why, it's me, Nick, the Mark with a mic, and my fellow unapologist,
Travis.
And, of course, our special guest for this week...
Patience.
What up, P?
What's up going on? What are you guys up to tonight? Other than talking about Before I Wake...
That's
it. That's our night.
That's our night. That's our whole night planned. I'm thinking about putting in some more Thomas Jane movies to see what aspect is about his performance is gonna be terrible. I love that in the last two episodes we previously reviewed with Patience was 1922, in which Thomas Jane put on an atrocious, almost unintelligible accent. Mm-hmm. And this one, it's like he transferred that accent to his hair. His hair is the equivalent. The hair is the equivalent. I don't understand his hair.
It annoys you and bothers
it annoys
you.
me, and it takes me out of the scene every time. And it is from a different time period.
It is.
See, there you go. It's just like his accent. With
that out of the way,
we'll talk about the hair later. It's just
we're going to talk about the hair.
We're going to talk about the hair. But yeah, we're talking about Before I Awake. Patience, this was your pick. Would you like to tell the people a little bit of what Before I Wake is about?
Absolutely. So this is about Thomas Jane and his wife, who is played by Kate Bosworth. And they have lost their child, an 8-year-old drowned in the bathtub. Okay. I don't know how likely that is, but I
think that's Darwinism at work. Fuck that 8-year-old.
Maybe that 8-year-old sucks. Can't take a bath. Anyway, so they
decide... How I understood it is I think he might have had a seizure and then died. So which makes it sadder, but you know what?
Thanks for making me feel bad now.
We're going to leave it in. We're going to leave the jokes in. So... If anything, I'll edit the serious part out. So
okay, good.
That part,
because
so they adopt this child, and they realize that this child has this special ability to manifest in reality what he is dreaming about. So of course, the super bitch-tastic Kate Bosworth's character starts to exploit this to bring back their dead son. Unfortunately, this also has the side effect of bringing back a monster we like to affectionately call the Kinker Sorban, and who can, I guess, just eat people, just absorb them in some way.
He them.
Yeah, that's
into
it, right?
Into a chrysalis, because of the butterfly theme.
Yeah, that's what it is. Butterflies. Anyway, so it's her job or duty to try and figure out what's going on in this little kid's head and why, he's got these dreams and blah, 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 blah. Hilarity ensues.
And Thomas Jane is also there.
Thomas Jane's hair is there. I'm not really sure how important he is to the whole
entire
plot.
He's there to be the lame conscience of man, this guy always talking about the morality of using a child in order to further our own gains.
Yeah, no, it's a little fucked up.
Lame. What a party pooper.
When they first get the child, his name is Cody, I believe, and he's trying to explain to him, he's like, do you like Xbox and this Kinect thing, and we can play sports things and punch and hit things, and I was just like, that was literally his best part of the whole entire movie. It was so awkward. I am
so
weird.
Glad you brought up that Kinect thing, because I love that this movie must be set in the 3-month window in which the Kinect first came out, where the Kinect would be a relevant reference.
I don't even know if it was 3 months, to be honest.
What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Way to date the film. No one will know what the Kinect is in 5 years.
5 years? I barely know what it is now.
No, well, any kid that's gonna watch, like, what? Like, no, that's ridiculous. If he would have just said Wii, like he says Wii later, I'm like, why didn't you just start with Wii? Everyone knows what a Wii is. Like, you don't need to explain it. Like, this, he goes into
Go ahead.
He goes in to explain this Kinect thing, and I'm thinking he's about to go in to explain sensor bars and the video game industry. And I'm like, what are you doing?
He just had to establish himself as the main mansplainer in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Let this bitch kid come in here and mansplain something for him. Ugh.
Playing these damn sports games. Funny enough, the movie was actually filmed in 2013, which I think actually, is that when the Kinect came out? Do we have a fact checker around here somewhere?
I didn't realize this movie was that old. Is it 2013?
Yeah. What happened was that Mike Flanagan, who is an incredible director, by the way, has made some amazing films that I love.
His previous work is Oculus, Hush, which we've watched for a previous Netflix and Kill.
Absentia.
Mm-hmm. And,
he did the Gerald's Game recently.
What was it? Oh, really? Gerald's Game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, you know what? That makes sense to me because I have a thing with the very ending that actually reminds me of Gerald's Game a little bit.
Also, apparently the Kinect actually came out in 2010.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that old.
Really?
Okay.
It's that old?
According to Google.
Man, that doesn't sound
Good
right.
job, Travis. Travis is the fact checker. That's your new nickname.
Okay.
Yeah, so what happened was that this movie was actually supposed to come out in 2015, and the movie company went bankrupt. And they just basically were like, sorry, Flanagan, you're never going to get your movie. And at one point, he was like, I guess he actually did an interview, and he was like, yeah, it's never going to happen. But I feel like there was some like backdoor negotiations going on with Netflix because he made 1922. He has a new series coming out with Netflix, and then all of a sudden, ooh, we get Before I Wake, you know. So I feel like that was probably part of his contract with Netflix.
Yeah, I do like that our theme of Thomas Jane going on here. This is our second movie for Netflix and Kill, I believe. And then, of course, we met during Deep Blue Sea. I love this Thomas Jane connection between us, Patience.
Oh my God, I totally didn't even that's right. Thomas Jane is in Deep Blue Sea.
Welcome to the Jane lane.
Right? I think we're going to have to do Punisher then.
Oh, yeah. You know what? We actually could do Punisher because I'm one of those weird people that doesn't hate the first Punisher movie.
Fuck yeah.
You with me on that one?
I'm totally in with you on that one.
Oh my God. I never meet anyone who likes that first Punisher movie.
Really? Are you serious? Like, he's my second favorite Frank Castle.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We're not here to talk about Punisher, but
But you will.
Next time.
But yeah, I also have to bring up something with you, Patience, because there's another running theme that concerns me. So I think this might be the third, maybe fourth movie in a row, or maybe not in a row, but that we've done for Netflix and Kill that features a couple that deals with some really deep-seated problems in their relationship and ends and resolves with at least one of them dying. So
I think we should be concerned for my husband right now.
Most of the time it's the man.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's the man.
This is true.
So Patience, if this is your subtle way of asking me to help murder your husband, I mean, I'm into it. Like, we'll edit this out. Like, it's fine. Like, just give me 2 coughs for yes, 1 for no.
I'm blinking right now. I'm blinking.
So, let's see, because we had Honeymoon.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Backcountry.
Backcountry.
Man, and then this one was there one more?
I feel like there
was.
I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, but yeah,
1922 was the opposite.
1922 was the opposite one, but so
I was still a couple though. Yeah.
For some reason, you just draw into these destruction of couples. You just hate happy couples. Apparently, fuck them and their happiness.
Actually, these guys weren't that happy.
Well, I mean, I like to think that they were pretty they seemed pretty all right together until Kate Bosworth figures out that, oh, I can use this kid's dream ability to see my son.
No, I actually kind of got it where she was doing that not just for herself, but also because it was something that brought them together. Because she did mention that they were having marital problems.
Did she mention that?
Yeah, when they went to like the one scene that she had where she was in group.
Oh, okay.
Where she's like, oh yeah, I kind of wish that my husband came along with this, but people process grief differently, and we're not getting along that well.
Oh, you know what? She did mention something later where I think that might have come into it too, but we'll talk about that. So yeah, their son died through hilariously unrealistic means of drowning in the tub. And every time they show it, I'm like, how did this kid fucking drown? Like they have to, like, I imagine, I'm like, okay, he was epileptic or he had a seizure.
No, it's just the bathtub's possessed.
You
saw that shot where they have the dimmer switch and the bathtub is centered in the screen.
You know what?
That is the clearly evil scene in the movie. Where
they did shoot the bathtub like it was going to come to life and murder everyone. You know what? I'm gonna go good with that. Yeah.
That's a whole different movie.
So I actually at the beginning of this, I was it's gonna be interesting because I feel like Patience did not quite care for this movie, but me and Travis kind of grew to like it. Or I shouldn't speak for Travis.
No, I did.
You did?
We were really chewing it out at the beginning.
We were giving it shit in the beginning.
It was just like, oh, look, like we were going like, oh, would it be funny if like both these, like they were like taking down all the portraits of their son, like, oh, gotta take him down so we can murder this new kid.
We were making them different.
And like the beginning of the when Cody first arrives, he has this box he doesn't want to give it to anyone, and we're like, oh, it's got the severed heads of his last family. Come on. We kept like guessing who was gonna be the villain of the movie, and then it started getting really sad. Like, this whole entire movie got really sad.
We were a little less than objective, I feel like. Because I immediately saw when the first thing that they see is butterflies, the first thing he manifests in his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing they see in the first night that he sleeps. And at first I was like, oh, butterflies, great. Patience picked a movie with scary butterflies in them. Great, awesome. And then we see the Canker Man in the background, and I'm like, oh, she picked an alien movie again. There's a fucking gray in the background. Damn it. All right, this is going to be another awkward Netflix and kill. I try. And I don't know, like at some point in the film when it actually starts to really get, I think, you know what, is when they first kill that fucking kid, that bully kid, is when I'm kind of into it.
Yeah.
As I'm like, yeah, like they have balls to kill a kid in a pretty horrible fashion.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. All right.
I don't know. I was actually very impressed by like the very first night where the mother wakes up and she wanders around the house, and you keep seeing like the things in like the corners of the eyes and stuff, like the Canker Man showing up and the kid being in the background. Those were some really well shot scenes where like half the time I was like, wait, was there something there? Gotta rewind for a second.
No, I was actually very I'm not sure, I wasn't like terrified during the film.
No.
But I was creeped out during it. And
it's one of those like, oh shit, bitch, don't go in there.
Yeah.
Type of moments.
I would have liked to seen this with an audience, yeah, and just like yelling at the screen.
Oh, they would have. I
think that would have been
amazing.
I also like the design of the Canker Man.
Like you said, he looks like a Gray from XCOM.
Well, he looks like a Gray from XCOM, which you would think like it's not a good thing. He looks him generic, but there's something about the smile. There's something about the mouth that makes it work for me. I really like this kind of like it's melted together. It looks like it might be kind of like at first it looks like it's stitched together, but it's like no, his skin is melted together, like making like strands of skin stick between the lips into this weird smile. And like the way it moves, like it does like this backbreaker thing at some point.
Oh, and yeah. It moves like a Voldo from Soul Calibur, actually. It's
nice.
a really weird movement.
And the way it kills people is like it absorbs them into like this cocoon and or its body into like this horror of like melding between creatures like the Thing monster. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then they actually show it a lot. Like they show it in the actually this, you know what, we were tracking this film of like how quick it really gets into its premise of like the Dream Warrior stuff.
Yeah, 'cause it was like 20 minutes in, I think you said, right?
Yeah,
so,
it was like
it's escalating really fucking fast.
Like, we get the kid, we get him on the night, and then suddenly we get into the dream logic, and then the weird shit starts to happen. Also, I kind of like how consistent the film's kind of, like, once we realize it's the kid's dreams, we get a lot of leeway for, like, stuff like, oh, well, then the rules of, like, how the Cankerman operates or what does what don't really have to make sense since it's dream logic.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because actually, if you go back and watch the beginning of the movie, the butterflies don't have antenna at first. It's not until the little girl who sits next to him in class draws antenna for him, they start having antenna after that.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, because, well, his dreams are super influential.
Yes.
Like, you can make him dream about whatever as long as you show him some pictures and stuff beforehand. Because they show him the picture of their son, and he dreams about the sun, and, they see the sun come down the stairs, and, like, they get to hug him for a little bit. And then he wakes up, and then of course, like they were like, "Wow, that was weird." And I love that Kate Bosworth is like, "Man, I wish we could hear him speak." And I even had the thought myself. I was like, you know what? That was a good detail of like if it's based off of his dream, he doesn't know what the kid sounds like. So then Kate Bosworth shows him like this, like Christmas video that they shot, like this home video, where it shows the kid and his and you get to hear his voice, so that they get to basically replay that memory the next night. And I love how Thomas Jane is the first one to go like, doesn't this feel a little fucked up to you?
Just a little bit,
bruh. Sorry.
I mean, his hair says bruh, but
his hair says. It's like his hair says bra every time he stops talking. His stupid 90s surfer look.
Seriously, 2013, dude.
I get with the times, man.
I just want to know, Thomas Jane, is it your goal to have one thing about you that's distracting during your performance? Like, I want something about me to like to destroy my credibility during this scene.
Hey, you remember him in it though.
I mean, I remember him. I don't know. Patience, what'd you feel about the at least this beginning part of the film, like the setup?
I actually am kind of on the opposite end than you guys. I actually liked the beginning of the movie the best. I liked that whole build-up. And like Travis mentioned, the subtle little details about the antenna on the butterflies was just like, that was really cool to me. I thought the butterflies themselves were quite beautiful. And they kind of have like this total like, I don't know, like fae kind of quality,
ethereal.
Like fairy. Yeah, exactly. So that whole setup up until Jesse becomes like a stone cold bee and starts, straight up like manipulating this kid to bring back her dead son. Like all the pictures that they took down, she starts to put back up. So that this poor little kid who's obviously traumatized is like, oh, I'm going to stare at pictures of your dead son all the time now so that I can like manifest him for you. And then he's like continuously apologizing for it. Mm-hmm. So that whole part I really, really liked. It wasn't until like the third act that I was like, oh man, this shit sucks. This is stupid. So... I really like the first two acts, but the third act just did not cut it for me, which of course we'll talk about later. But obviously Kate Bosworth's character is a terrible person.
Oh yeah, we can all admit that.
I liked how it took her no time at all to decide, like, yep, I'm going to use this kid. And then she tries to justify it to herself, it's to heal, honey.
He needs to sleep.
I love, like, this argument between her and Thomas Jane of just, like, well, what do you mean? Like, Thomas Jane is like, I don't know. It just feels kind of wrong. Like,
we should mention too that Cody drinks a lot of sugar and caffeine to stay up longer.
Because he's very concerned about going to sleep. He's very afraid of his own power, and which is made clear later by the Cankerman. And I do like that. Even they don't know about the Cankerman in the beginning, so it's not like that they're willingly putting him in danger to do it. That they're just putting his his development in danger in order to do it. Because I'm like, okay, even without the Cancer Man villain, this is a fucked up thing to do with a child. Is basically treating him like a surrogate child to get to your real kid.
I mean, most people do that without the dream things, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you're a replacement child. We'll love you just as much. Like, no, you're a replacement child. Now make a child for us. That's a little fucked up.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually dig on some of the logic and stuff of how the dreams work, how he needs to hear the kid's voice before he can imitate him. And I thought the girl that he sat next to in class, the girl that was given the antenna, I thought she was been a bigger part of the movie.
Yeah, she just kind of hangs out for a bit.
I guess she was just there to, like, give him, like, you know, like, hey, there's not everyone's a dick at school.
Yeah.
Because even the bully doesn't even get any lines in it.
He was also really creepy. Like, that one scene where, like, Cody didn't want to go to recess because he didn't want to get bullied, and the kid is just standing there outside the room mean-mugging him.
Yeah.
I'm like, the fuck?
I'm gonna catch you in the playground.
Yeah, it's like, are you gonna mug this child? What are you doing?
You
They're
better
like
hope I don't
8.
catch you at recess.
Like, the 8-year-olds are vicious, apparently, these days.
I for sure thought he had a shiv underneath his shirt there. The way he was standing. Like, I really, I don't know. I dug a lot of the aspects about the dream stuff, and I think the one of the things that I wasn't crazy about in the beginning was that the kid actor is, like, okay to kind of, like, actually kind of bad at certain points, and I think we've been spoiled recently with some of the best child acting we've ever seen in some of the stuff like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And
it's really hard to compare things to that one, though.
And if you remember It.
It was also very good.
So good.
And it's like, damn it, I think I've been spoiled of how good child acting has been lately, to where I see one from, like, I'm like, this does feel like some of the child acting we would get in the early, later 2000s and, the 90s films and stuff. Like, this kid is just kind of like, I'm polite, and that is my character trait. I am polite.
Funny enough, the actual kid is played by Jacob Tremblay, who everyone was freaking out about because he was in The Room, the Brie Larson movie. And so when everyone heard that he was playing the kid in this, they're like, oh my God, he's going to be in a horror film. And honestly, I agree with you guys 100%. There are so many better kid actors out there comparatively these days. And so it's just like, yeah, he kind of had, like, this whiny nasaliness to him that I just got turned off about after, like, halfway through the movie.
Yeah, so that was a little more disappointing. I was like, what were some of the other stuff you did like about the film, Patience?
Like I said earlier, I really liked the butterfly sequences. I thought that those were particularly beautiful. And just, like, there was, like, this very, ambient quality to when he would bring back the dead kid. I thought that the Canker Man looked particularly good, which is surprising because this isn't, like, a super high-budget movie, so the CGI was excellent. There were definitely those were the strong points, I think. Kate Bosworth, I think she did an amazing job. Her character, even though you don't particularly care for her, is well done and well rounded. I really feel like Thomas Jane was just sort of an afterthought. Maybe that's why the hair, because he knew that he wasn't very important to the movie.
Yeah, what am I gonna have? Like, this is my part. I'm not shaving my head for this. This is bullshit. They get my surfer's weekend hair. They don't get real actor hair.
Yeah, it's just like, this is my vacation hair. My vacation in Hawaii hair. But otherwise, I thought that overall it was a pretty solid film. Like I said before, there's just some things that really bothered me about the third act that sort of just kind of went downhill for me.
We'll have to talk about that in our spoiler section. I don't know, Travis, what was other things you thought about the film?
Well, I do agree with Patience that the butterflies look great. Like, there's even the scene where once
I love how much talk we're talking about the butterflies.
The butterflies!
Yes!
Well, we get the scene where, like, they're replaying the Christmas scene. The butterflies are still there, but now they're also, like, lights at the same time. That was a really cool scene.
Yeah, I like that.
Thomas Jane was really interesting in this movie. I kind of feel like a lot of the other actors were not particularly great. Like, even just the background characters, I'm like, all right, you're here to deliver like a line of dialogue, and that's kind of your only function here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of meh. The Kicker Man was really cool. Like, he's really creepy how he just shows up to the kid, like, I'll always be with you. It's really menacing how he's like whispering next to the kid.
I thought he was like a really cool like inspiration of like kind of like a in between the Slender Man and like this like cocoon thing. I was like, I'm really into this. Mm-hmm. He has that smile, you know, that smile. Now I'm thinking about it. That's the smile, a mouth that I want Scarecrow to have in the TV series Gotham.
Oh yeah,
like that's the mouth I want him to have, not the weird thing that makes me like almost gag every time he opens up his mouth. But I'm sorry, what were you saying?
What was I saying? Actually, no, I do forget. Thanks a lot, Nick.
And the train of thought is lost.
No,
you were thinking about the glory of the monarch butterfly.
Many monarch butterflies. The biggest thing I know is just this movie is so sad.
It's
really, so sad.
There's like an epilogue at the end of this movie in which it explains exactly how sad it is. And I don't want to spoil too much, but I have a similar problem with this and Gerald's Game of the epilogue being too fucking long. And I realize that they don't want to give away, like, oh, here's a bunch of important information that you don't want to give away immediately because you want the audience to figure it out. I'm like, well, give the audience a chance to figure some of this out on their own. Like, you don't have to give it all away in this one dump of, like, of exposition and epilogue. That's what I felt like it's just, I'm not against epilogues, like, hard stop, but I feel like this epilogue didn't have to explain everything that was going on in the film. Like, some of it could have been woven in a little bit more. Let's see what else. There's another logic thing in the third act that like involving the bathtub that we'll probably talk about. That I'm like, okay, wait, that doesn't really make sense to me if we're thinking about this in the aspect of it's the kid's dream.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think it was pretty much all I really wanted to cover. There's a lot of stuff that we can only really cover in a spoiler section because there's some interesting decisions that they make after a certain point midway through the film. But we'll go into like our, ratings then. I realized we already kind of gave our, final thoughts on it, but Patience, what would you rate the movie overall?
Oh, I've been struggling with this today. I'm like wavering between, overall, I think it was a solid story, great special effects. I've seen worse movies. Let's just put that out there. But overall, I definitely think this is probably Mike Flanagan's weakest film out of all of the ones that he's done. So I'm going to give it 6.5. I don't know, what is the kid drinking? Mountain Dews? Tab? Is Tab a thing?
It's some grape drink. Like it's like this grape soda that doesn't exist.
That's clearly empty in a lot of scenes.
You're right. 6.5 of those.
6.5 clearly empty soda cans out of 10. I love that clearly the way he holds that soda can, it is not full of anything. Like it is just like, why would it have been so hard to give him a can actually full of liquid? Like,
if it's just water.
Because it's like, oh, that's cute. He's pretending to drink a soda. Oh, I'm supposed to believe he's actually drinking a soda? That's better than... well, I really dug this film. I enjoyed the design of the Canker Man and the spookier creep out aspects of it. There's an interesting argument here, too, Patience. You'll appreciate this with your... a recent episode of Doom Patrol, in which there was a giant argument of what constitutes a horror film. Apparently, the director of this film...
Oh yeah, he doesn't think it's a horror film,
He
right?
repeatedly objected to the film being marketed as a horror movie and instead referred to it as a fable or a supernatural drama. And I'm like, come on, dude. You have a fucking guy named the Canker Man eating people in your film. It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I dug it overall. I had a lot of fun with it, especially since we were making fun of it in the beginning. I thought like, you know what, this really entertained me by the end here. I did not regret watching it all. I'm gonna give it a 4. Drinking coffee grounds and water out of 5.
Ugh.
Luck. That was so gross. Man, this guy was willing to do. This kid was willing to do anything to stay awake.
He was. It was pretty gross.
Travis, how about you?
I actually did enjoy the movie a whole lot. Like Nick said, even though we were making fun of it quite heavily at the beginning, it pulled off and it was like, nope, it actually has pretty emotional moments. It has, at least one good actor, but the scenes they have are pretty, like, it's just more of a visually appealing movie than the actual plot itself, I think. Overall, I'd probably give it 7 bullies who did not run away from home out of 10.
With no lines of dialogue.
0 lines of dialogue.
I like to imagine that kid must have had like a weird voice or something. It's like, okay, this kid looks like a villain. I love this kid. We got to cast him. And then it's like he opens his mouth and like, oh hey, what's going on? Here, I'm ready to be the bully. Hey, give me your lunch money. I hate you. Fucking suck. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. Yeah, I'm just shut his mouth.
Just be silent.
Yeah, just be sullen and silent. Or no, maybe. No, he opens up his mouth. He sounds like Korg. Hey man, give me your lunch money. You just give me your lunch money, man. It'll be over quick. Sorry to inconvenience you. Damn it, I did polite again. But thank you guys so much for listening. We're gonna go into a spoiler section, but if you don't want to stick around for that, if you want to watch Before I Wake First, completely understand that impulse. I know you don't want your child murder spoiled for you.
No,
so
never.
No, I mean then what's the fun in watching it even? But you can go and do that, and while you're doing that, maybe check out some of our back catalog on Netflix and Kill on our UGO podcast iTunes feed, as well as our regular episodes. We have Patience on as a special guest for the Netflix and Kills from some previous ones, if you want to go and check out some of that. She always brings in some interesting conversation. Patience, where can the people find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Deliberations of Doom on oneofus.net. Doom! The Doom Patrol! And then you can also find me at prof.patience on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram these days.
All right. That sounds awesome. And we are going to take a small musical break, and we'll be back right after this.
On your meadow wings astride, with your glistening extra parts you glide. It's just you and I up here. Santa got it wrong with his 8th reindeer. How about a gliding? No more hiding things that are wonderful. How about a crying? To be heard over petty jealousy. Let's make love. But a glider. Let's find a way to grind. And all our heart, what a baby.
All right, welcome back to Netflix and Kill. Oh my god, I'm so excited to be here talking about spoilers for Before I Wake and not about cheese curds and unbelievably gross eating habits we were talking about during the break for
No particular reason.
before the spoiler section. We'll talk about that. That'll be a whole other podcast, the fat diet podcast of deep frying everything. But we are talking about Before I Awake and some of the spoilers there. I guess we should start with Thomas Jane's ultimate demise.
He does.
Debo da. He
Unclimactically, I think, as well. It was like,
it happened so fast. I thought the first death is the kid, the bully, during the school thing.
He bites it.
Where I was actually rooting from oh kid, you better bully faster. You better get to it. Get to your bullying.
Wake the kid the fuck up and bully him.
The one time inefficient bullying really screws over this kid. I feel like he really let down his peers of the bullies from the It movie and
they were psychopathic.
And even some Stephen King bullies would have been like, "Come on, man, you couldn't even get one line of dialogue." Jeez. I mean, you couldn't even exposit about how you had a horrible childhood and how that's supposed to explain some of your actions, sort of.
Yeah, nope, we don't get any of that.
And yeah, the kid gets eaten by the canker man, and like the girl, like his little girlfriend watches.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. We see it in the background of just this kid like getting absorbed. And I don't know what made it so like, man, that was great. Like I loved it for whatever reason. Probably because most films are a little squeamish about showing child death.
It is something that people don't tend to like watching as much.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it's awesome. More child death.
Exactly. Unless you're me, I'm like, I kill all the kids. That's my favorite thing. Like that's how I know you're gutsy filmmaker.
Little people.
Technically, 2 kids die in this one. The 8-year-old drowns in the tub, and then the bully gets eaten. So that's a win-win.
2 for 2. Yeah.
The canker man has a taste for kids. And a taste for a 90s hairdo, because Thomas Jane tries to fight off the canker man when he first shows up, and he just gets absorbed. Kate Bosworth gets bitch slapped across the room, in which it leaves this like nasty mark on her in the rest of the film, which is pretty cool.
Keeping that mark.
Well, it like knocks her so hard against the room. I was just like, I think that would snap anyone's spine if they got hit that fucking hard. like it sends her sailing. And so yeah, apparently when people get eaten by the canker man, they get like wiped from existence? ? Like, I'm not exactly 100% sure what happens to them.
It never really bothers even explaining it.
Which I guess it doesn't have to because of the whole dream logic.
Yeah.
Anyway, they they take away, I forgot the kid's name. Cody, got it. They take away Cody. Social services does, because they think like because of the phone calls, like he hit him, he hit her. Oh my god, she's awake. So it's like, okay, so they think it's a domestic violence case, and that Thomas Jane.
Yeah, except that wasn't their reason for taking away. Their reasoning was, why did you drug the child, ma'am?
Yeah,
it was a sleeping medication. He doesn't sleep.
It was actually prescribed by a doctor.
This is the part of the movie where I was like, really? This part pissed me the fuck off, because they take the kid away because she drugged him, apparently, with a prescription from a doctor, and then they turn around and do the same fucking thing.
It was kind of dumb.
Literally, yeah, I mean, that was like a huge plot hole for me. It's like, oh, the caseworker is going to take your kid away because you drugged him, and then, like, literally the next thing she does is drug him.
It's like, why did you drug the child, ma'am? Is it because of his pre-condition of insomnia, and it's prescribed by a doctor? My God, you're a monster.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Now what we're going to do is we're going to force him to sleep after a couple days of insomnia, which we should have really seen coming. And we're gonna strap him down and inject him by force.
So much better.
With a fucking sedative. And I'm like, what the fuck?
You got to that point where I'm like, you're all gonna die now, and I'm not gonna feel really that bad. So
also, if anyone spends any time in actual child care or foster care services,
forcing a kid down is probably not the best thing for them.
No, I was gonna say I've spent some time in the child care sort of field, and it is really, really hard to take away a kid from a foster family or especially their actual family. Social workers and the organization takes great strains to not remove a child from any sense of normalcy that they have, or any set, because it does damage to the child to be, taken away from whatever their environment is, to the point where it's really disgusting and gross how bad you have to treat a child before they'll be taken away from you. Like that's a sad thing I always think about in any of these movies where the child gets taken away immediately.
Right.
And I'm like, no, that's a 6-month process of trying to get that child away and doing paperwork and doing stuff. Like, you'd have to almost murder that child. Like, you'd have to really, like...
Which, hey, the opening father almost does.
Mm-hmm. Like... oh, man. And what a... I love that Kate Bosworth, we're supposed to be rooting for her now, too, like, right after, like, she realizes that once she sees the canker man, we're like, oh, she's like, oh, I've really fucked up. I need to
make amends.
And get back and be a good mother. Which, cool for her and everything, but she was such a bitch, especially to Thomas Jane. Remember when when she says we got to take our kid down, our pictures down. It's not right for us to try and force Cody to show us pictures of I think their kid's name was Sean.
Yeah,
and I love the fact that she said what was the exact line? It was something like I won't let you take him away from me again.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck did you just say?
And she tries to apologize, but he's like, no, that's not happening.
Nope, not cool. Not cool. And it leads one to believe that the bathtub drowning happened on his watch. And I really did like that scene of where Thomas Jane was like, I'm gonna stand over here because you just said some shit that
that would end spousal abuse at that point.
I'm like, yeah,
no, you're gonna get bitch slapped for that one.
Like, how dare you say that shit to me? Like, that is a rough shit to say to a person, true or not.
Like, that's not passive aggressive. That's full on aggressive.
Damn. So that's what leads me to believe, like, oh, okay, so that was their marital problems. Like, that's probably where it stems from.
Could be.
Otherwise, it's not really already apparent, like, what their marital problems actually are in the beginning of the film.
Well, to be honest, child death is actually a very common, divorcing issue.
Sure.
Once it happens, we just cannot be together anymore.
Yeah, but they don't display any signs of really not having each other's backs or really not liking each other at all or being... they seem sad, but they seem to be kind of getting over it. It's like, oh, they seem functional enough.
Considering how long it actually takes to become a foster
right?
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a long period of time.
Well, according to this movie, they probably could become a foster kid that afternoon if they wanted.
I think the only real measure of them having some sort of marital issues is the fact that she goes to group therapy by herself, and the therapist, who is terrible, by the way, he's as much of a he's a jackass, and he mentions the fact that Thomas Jane doesn't go to therapy with her anymore, and I think that's the only real discord there. Otherwise, they seem to seem to be getting along a lot better than a lot of couples I know. That's for sure. But yeah, and then also that's another thing. The group therapy and the therapist, who was really quite terrible, I really feel didn't really serve a whole lot of purpose.
No, but he only shows up two scenes.
Yeah, but still, it's 10 minutes of my life,
Too much.
I'm very concerned with that 10 minutes I never got back. I like that it shows her doing the group thing. It shows her working at... I just don't understand how, when she's the one going to group and, supposed to be the one, trying to,
get over it
and move on, Thomas Jane is the one that's very much over it and acting in a mature and responsible way, and he gets murdered for it. They even try and slap Cody awake at one point, and it just makes I guess it disrupts the buffering connection between him and the Cankerman.
Cankerman's not happy about that.
Yeah. I also like when the Cankerman just becomes butterflies into a human shape.
Yeah.
And has, those eyes. That's pretty neat. Yeah, I just like the Cankerman's design overall. But anyway, they take Cody away, and Kate Bosworth goes on her detective mission of trying to figure out what exactly is going on with Cody. And she learns surprisingly little. There's a big exposition thing of what happened to his previous foster families, and we get one very specific story with what's his name, the actor we see at the beginning of the film, because this film starts with a cold open of his previous foster father trying to murder him, or one of the previous foster fathers. Man, what was his name?
I don't know, but this guy was very much on Patience's side, where he's like, nah, fucking kill that kid.
Yeah, kill that kid. Dash McMilk. And yeah, I really did think because he's given this exposition of like, oh, his dreams became real and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is an explanation. We know that the dreams are real. We've gotten this for quite a while.
Yeah, the movie was subtle about it at first, but it's very clearly obvious later on, where it's like, nope, this shit's happening.
Anyway, like his wife got sick, and then the Kinker Man showed up and got her, and it did lead me, like, that was our first subtle clue of like, oh, the Kinker Man doesn't like sickness. He doesn't like weakness, apparently.
Only the strong survive.
And yeah, so they meanwhile back at the foster like care unit that only seems to have one child in it. Like, what is this facility that they're at?
Yeah,
like, they put Cody under, and you think to yourself like, oh shit's about to go down, and Kate Bosworth has to show up and kind of save the day. She enters into the creepy facility, and shit has already gone down. Like, it's already
everyone's dead,
long since over, where the Canker Man has cocooned everybody. And she walks through the house with like butterflies and stuff, and she basically has to face off with the Canker Man in order to save Cody. Now here's a point where she goes to the bathtub to see her son being drowned again, and here's one thing that I didn't get, because Cody, when he was told from Thomas Jane before how Sean died, Thomas Jane just said he drowned, and that like he's it was a terrible tragedy and it was an accident. So when Sean first shows up after that, after the story during his nightmare, he shows up with a dark reflection of the Christmas thing, where there's a decayed Christmas tree, a fucking awful present right in front of him, and Sean like throws up muddy water or something, and like this gross like black water.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that makes sense, because all he knows is that he drowned. He doesn't know that he drowned in a tub or what context he drowned. So he just throws up water, because that's the only thing that Cody knows for sure. And then Canker Man jumps out of the present like a fucking weird Jack in the Box.
Boogie boogie.
But then in the third act, we get a scene where we see Sean clearly, like, the Canker Man is fucking with Kate Bosworth, I guess, before just killing her, apparently, because she just wants to show him the bathtub sequence. And I'm like, if this is all based off of Cody's knowledge and his dream, he still doesn't know that the bathtub is the cause of the the
Sean's death.
Yeah, Sean's death, yeah. And I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, wait, maybe because Thomas Jane got absorbed, it absorbed some of his memories, but then I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense, because then he would know how some of the other kid, like the bully kid, he would hear his voice, or some of the stuff he wouldn't know. Everything in the dreams are everything else based in the dreams are based off of Cody's specific logic.
Yeah.
That's nothing else. Anything that Cody doesn't know doesn't show up in the dreams, because it's very much based off of his perspective. So I just did not get why the bathtub was there, because there's no line of dialogue explaining like, oh, he died in the bathtub or something, explaining it to Cody.
Or even just showing a scene where Cody kind of like figures out himself, like, oh, hey, this bathtub seems really weird, like it's possessed. I don't know, it's kind of creepy.
Anyway, we get the face-off with the Canker Man, and we get, of course, the ending with the Babadook again, where our protagonist just confronts the villain and hugs it to death. But I actually kind of liked this one, because like, oh, this one, it is all about the metaphor because it's in the dream.
Yeah.
And the Babadook, it's like, oh, it treated it like it was a metaphor the whole time. Like, no, the Babadook's an actual monster. So when you yell at it, it shouldn't really just work, just because it's metaphorically right. But in this one, it's dream logic, so it's all about what stuff means. So because she has the butterfly toy, I guess, like the stuffed animal.
Like, I guess it was a toy.
I thought it was a slipper at first.
I thought so too.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't alone in that one. Like, I thought it was like, well, why does she have this slipper? And yeah, it is apparently an old toy that they had from Child Services, and it belonged to him when his mother died, and his mother died of cancer. but he had a problem pronouncing it, so it became canker. And turns out that I thought the canker man was some sort of moth like larva monster. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh no, it's a cancer patient. That's why it's got the hollowed out.
Yeah, it's actually his last. It's basically his last memory of his mother is what the canker man is. I'm like, wow, that's super sad.
I mean, well, and then it makes me super scared of like, so this kid is just one bad dream from murdering anyone in the immediate vicinity.
Oh, let's not even forget the very, very end stinger type of thing.
Oh, sure, yeah, we'll get there in a minute. I don't know, Patience, what do you think about the third act overall?
Well, as I stated previously, this was definitely my least favorite part of the film. I agree with you. The bathtub thing kind of threw me off, especially since they were so good about other details having to do with this memory.
They were so consistent with everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when the previous foster parent was talking about how he tried to use Cody to bring back his wife, but he couldn't because he was too young to remember certain details, so the wife would come back looking all like weird and, like a little kid's memory. And that like part was amazing.
And or sex doll.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, let's not go there, but...
Yeah, let's just not go there.
Yeah, let's just not do that. So, yeah, the whole, wait, what? Wait, why does he know about, in perfect detail, Sean getting, drowning in the bathtub was a little bit awkward. I agree 100%. Otherwise, the whole big reveal about his mother being a cancer patient was so lame. I was like, really? This is the big reveal? This is what I've, been watching 90 minutes of to get this? So I just felt it was kind of it was a little limp, I guess, of a third act for me. The big twist at the end wasn't really that impressive. And then the actual ending itself was so ambiguous and so, very, like you mentioned earlier, very, Gerald's Game. We don't need that much. Just, as a horror fan, sometimes less is more. And I don't think that we need to have, endings shoved down our throats all the time. And I think that Flanagan was probably a little bit heavy-handed there with, the whole narrative for the last 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, I actually like the idea of the cancer patient being his manifestation of what cancer is, eating other people up and making them not exist anymore, which is, from his perspective, is what happened to his mother.
Right, it fit the theme of, he didn't remember things correctly because he was a young kid.
Well, I also feel like if we could have found that in the third act, she found it out, and once she found it out, then she could have defeated the villain rather than defeating the villain and then explaining exactly here, this is what I found out, and afterwards I'm I just don't understand the epilogue aspect of it, of just okay, we could have easily had this as a big reveal, once we got it was the cancer patient, and then in the third act she goes, I know what to do now, and then grabs the maybe it's a race to go grab the toy, and it's just something a little more active, because at first that whole third act I don't know what she's there to try and accomplish. I'm up until she comes up and with the stuffed butterfly, I'm oh, so she just, her plan was just to hug it? Weird, a bold strategy. All right,
I wouldn't try that.
But it makes more sense. It makes more sense retroactively if you're once the epilogue goes. I'm okay, well, I don't understand why we didn't. Well, it could have been just as cool of a reveal during the third act earlier. Yeah. Rather than at the epilogue. Also, the epilogue has a big ambiguous thing of here's she tells the story, it's does it have a happy ending? Well, let's see, maybe it does. And she goes through and the kid that was used to be mean, he woke up with his parents and was no longer mean anymore. The nice man from before got his wife back. And then I like that even in her version of a great time, or a good ending, Thomas Jane is still dead, because it's Thomas Jane is he got the best gift of all. He got to be with his son, and he gets to be with Sean.
Oh, I was kind of under the impression that the son came back to life with him.
Oh, okay. I did not get that. I thought that in her fantasy
didn't get
version,
that
she
at
was
all.
like,
'cause
I don't want Thomas Jane back. That hairstyle, man, it was really bad, and
No,
he would not get rid of it.
I thought it was more like, oh, he got his son back type of thing, where like they were both alive and
I think then it would have showed them both with them. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's him just showing him and the son together makes me think like they're together in the afterlife, and I'm like, the other guys got to be alive. Why not them?
I didn't get that, but I think you guys just like children being murdered too much.
No, Sean is. He can't bring back dead people to life. He can only. I thought he would only bring back people that he erased from existence via the Canker Man.
I don't know, his power doesn't actually seem to have a limit.
I know, like then it's like I expected almost Charles Xavier to show up at some point and be like, "I'm here. I have a special institute for your child."
And he finds what he can do, but like, nope, fucking kill the kid.
And so it's like that. I'm pretty sure that they were supposed to like, okay, so that's a fantasy that she's telling the kid. And I'm like, I wonder if she's trying to influence his dream so that some of that stuff might come true.
Maybe.
And then he goes like, is that true? Like, I don't know. Maybe it could be, depending on if your power grows or not. And I'm like, are we sure we want to develop this kid's power to the point where he has dominion over life and death?
Not even just that, all of reality.
Like, I say cut our losses, man. What do we lose? One dick kid and a Thomas Jane 90s haircut? Fuck it. I think we got out clean, man.
And funny enough, at that moment is when you discover he can actually do these things without being asleep. So,
oh my god,
there you go.
He's a
It's
daywalker.
even worse.
He's the daydreamer.
The daydreamer. That's a
He's the
good
daydreamer.
one. I expect a comic book next year.
No, I stole it. I stole it from a great source, Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Oh. Oh, God.
I know,
That's very
so disappointing, right? I know, really devastating. Should not have mentioned it.
Should have left the mystery alive, Nick. You killed it.
So yeah, he does do the whole daydreamer thing of like, I can make butterflies even though I'm awake. And I'm kind of like, alright. I mean, that didn't work out so great for like in Chronicle when you give I mean, I don't want to be around for his teenage years.
No.
Just to be shady.
What if he like decides to rebel like as a kid? Like, no, mom doesn't want me to watch a scary movie. I'm totally watching a scary movie. Oh shit, I watched a scary movie. Now everyone's gonna die because Freddy's alive. What the fuck?
Man, he's gonna have some weird anxiety dreams when he starts to finally get the dreams of not showing up to class with pants on,
or just puberty in general.
Yeah, puberty. Yeah, that's gonna be awkward.
Man, I do not want to be around for those dreams. I do not want to be around for his first wet dream.
No.
That is, nope. That is something you don't want to think about. But you know what? What I do want to think about is how awesome this review has been. Thank you so much for joining us, Patience.
Thanks for having me, as always. I look forward to it. I love hanging out with you guys.
We love it too.
Movies are always interesting, that's for sure.
I love them. Let me know what couple we want to watch get murdered next, Patience. I'm down for it.
Specifically the husband.
Yeah, like fuck that guy. Obviously, women rule.
Yeah, whatever guy it is, fuck him.
Yeah, hashtag me too. I don't even know that that works.
I don't think it does here, no.
No, that's
not really what that movie's supposed to be about.
Nope.
Please do not murder your husbands, ladies. I mean, if they're sexually abusing you, maybe. No.
No, maybe we shouldn't go down that road.
No murder.
This is too awkward of a conversation. We gotta get out of here. We're an apology to Geek Out, and we're out.